Som-hi? Molt bé, bon dia. Soc Jaume Guillemet, president de la secció de Filosofia i Ciències Socials, i us saludo en nom meu i us dono la benvinguda en nom de la presidenta de l'Institut d'Estudis Catalans, Teresa Cabré, que tenia un altre compromís a primera hora d'aquest matí i m'ha demanat que us saludi. Jo, en tot cas, us hauria saludat igual, a més com a antic soci fundador d'aquesta casa l'any 80, no? Fa 40 anys d'això, no? Bé, en tot cas, content de veure com aquesta ja és la 8a edició d'aquest Congrés Internacional, que continua una conferència més modesta que celebràvem a la ciutat de Girona des de l'any 91. I res, simplement donar-vos la benvinguda, esperar que feu molta feina, sempre la feu, aquesta és una societat molt activa, felicitar a la Junta que presideix en Joan Francesc Fontdevila per la seva organització i donar la benvinguda al nostre convidat, Arthur Grimonpont. Ja m'he excusat amb ell, que no em podré quedar a sentir la seva conferència perquè d'aquí 10 minuts tenim reunió de govern de l'Institut. De manera que benvinguts, moltes gràcies i bona feina.
Moltes gràcies, Jaume. I continuem amb l'acte de presentació i inauguració d'aquest congrés. Com ha dit l'amic Guillemet, al qual agraeixo enormement sempre la seva col·laboració i el seu entusiasme amb la societat, doncs es tracta ja de la 8a edició d'aquest congrés internacional, que cada vegada, a poc, i bona lletra, és més internacional. Aquest any disposem d'uns conferenciants de diversos països, Puerto Rico, la inaugural també ve de França i alguns altres, i la major part seran presencials i també disposarem, per raons logístiques o raons fins i tot d'estalvi d'algun dels comunicadors, doncs serà a través de vídeo o bé en línia. Enguany hem batut alguna marca, que sempre és un motiu de satisfacció i són indicadors que fan progressar, ens agrada molt a la Junta Directiva. Són bàsicament els registres del nombre de comunicacions presentades, que no vol dir que totes siguin acceptades, hi ha hagut alguna que no, perquè cada vegada el llistó de qualitat és més elevat, s'apropen a la 60ena, i també l'altre registre és el d'universitats i centres de recerca que hi participen, que l'anterior registre eren 33 i aquesta vegada són 35. A poc, és com la borsa nosaltres, a poquet, i increments moderats però constants. També aprofito per agrair a la Teresa Cabré, com ha comentat el Jaume Guillemet, que és la presidenta de l'IEC, sempre la seva col·laboració i ja s'ha excusat. Ara precisament estan en període electoral, tot apunta molt bé cap a la Teresa, però li han sortit diverses qüestions i no ha pogut ser, però diguem-ne, d'esperit està amb nosaltres. Aprofito la vinentesa per fer un recordatori a l'Antoni Mercader i Capellà, un soci, un dels que va participar en els primers equips de la Societat Catalana de Comunicació, que va morir fa poquet, fa pocs dies, i va ser un dels precursors en l'art multimèdia a Catalunya. És un recordatori simbòlic en aquest congrés. Agraeixo la tasca enorme de la Junta Directiva, vicepresidenta, la secretaria, tresoreria, que portem els números molt bé, que portem tot modestament però amb superàvit i amb tranquil·litat, vocals, col·laboració indispensable i essencial per al bon funcionament de la societat. Una junta platòrica i a la qual estic orgullosíssim, i també el delegat de l'IEC a l'SSC, el Josep Maria Casassús, que ha coincidit que hi havia un altre esdeveniment, intentarà, veiem si pot venir, però hi ha un desplaçament pel mig i pot ser complicat. Agraeixo públicament la col·laboració del Casassús, sempre molt constructiu i sempre col·laborant amb les activitats de la Societat Catalana de Comunicació. En aquest esdeveniment, que de fet aquest any ocuparà 2 dies, un dia i mig, a prova del seu creixement, també inclourem alguna altra activitat, alguna de les quals ja les vam fer l'any passat i que es manté i que s'està consolidant. Per un costat, els estatuts de l'SSC establien uns reconeixements que ja sabeu que apareixen públicament i als quals hi ha uns reconeixements d'àmbit de professorat als quals es pot aspirar, que són de l'estil de les acreditacions de l'ANEC o de l'ACU, per fer-vos una idea, o s'envien com a mèrit al professorat, i després també hi ha els de treballs de final de grau i treballs de final de màster, que això es farà un acte simbòlic durant la jornada, que sapigueu, si alguns de vosaltres sou docents a les vostres universitats, que podeu impulsar l'enviament de TFGs i TFMs, que siguin del curs precedent, i aleshores es fa aquest humil reconeixement, perquè sempre va bé per al currículum. Per altra banda, aquest any estem molt orgullosos perquè organitzem la primera trobada de revistes científiques en català. És una trobada que confiem que es pugui consolidar en el futur i que aplegarà la crème de la crème, utilitzo el gal·licisme que tenim aquí l'Arthur, de les revistes científiques d'àmbit de parla catalana, el que no vol dir que els articles que surtin publicats sempre siguin en català, són també en altres llengües. Sabeu que a l'ESC tenim la revista Comunicacio, revista de recerca i d'anàlisi, que també agraeixo molt la col·laboració de Bertran Salvador, Alejandra Campos, que estan aquí filantròpicament. Això és cert, matiso sempre, que potser alguns saben que tota la tasca que fem és filantròpica 100%. Com diuen alguns, estem regalant el nostre temps i esperit a la pàtria, hi haurà un Carme al final que ho retornarà. La tasca de la revista, que sapigueu que està ben posicionada, cada vegada està ocupant posicions més avançades en les indexacions, i us convido també a presentar articles, que de fet alguns de les comunicacions també es presenten després a la revista. I de fet ara està a punt de sortir un número, vull dir que també us animo a enviar, i al vostre entorn de docència i acadèmic que intenteu impulsar l'enviament. I aquí sí que hi ha hagut algun debat, l'IEC com a tal, com a institució, i en general el posicionament és que s'hauria de premiar el fet d'enviar articles en llengües minoritàries com el català. I de fet a les agències, a l'hora de reconeixements, sexennis, a l'hora de les acreditacions, en llengua minoritària ja sabeu que disminueix l'opció de ser citats i d'augmentar l'índex H, índex H10 i companyia. Aleshores, el posicionament hauria de ser aquest, no només ponderar-ho, sinó que premiar-ho, perquè al fons és per promoure llengües minoritàries i representa que ja hi ha un sacrifici que sabem en termes d'indicadors. Per tant, aquesta seria la posició, i també us animo a escriure i a publicar en català. Jo ja he publicat en català, a Comunicació no puc perquè soc el director juntament amb el Bertran, per tant, mentre ho sigui no hi publicaré, però que us animo. I després també tenim ja un altre clàssic del Congrés, que és l'enregistrament en fals directe del programa L'Altra Ràdio, de Ràdio 4, que dirigeix Sintoniki, que el farem aquesta tarda a les 6. O sigui, la trobada de les revistes és a la tarda a quarts de 4, a 3 quarts de 4, i quan acabem la trobada de revistes també hi haurà un petit break i després farem l'enregistrament d'aquest programa a les 6. A més coincidint amb el 45 aniversari de l'Altra Ràdio, que també una altra efemèride, i també molt agraïts a Sintoniki i tot l'equip de Ràdio 4, perquè això porta feina, ven aquí, és espectacular, ven aquí amb tots els equips i crec que us agradarà, també us convido a assistir-hi. Us informo també que, com que ha augmentat el nombre de comunicacions, les farem en paral·lel en 3 sales, o sigui que anem creixent, dels primers anys és 1, 2, ara ja són 3 sales, la Coromines, la Pissunyer i la Nicolau d'Olbert, tots i totes teniu el programa corresponent, i demà farem el mateix procediment. També hi haurà 2 tongades de comunicacions amb les sales corresponents i també us convido a assistir. Sé que s'allarga, però ha estat la manera de confegir aquest programa. I bàsicament era això el que us volia transmetre, també animar-vos en el vostre entorn a animar els vostres col·legues es volen fer socis de l'HSC, que sabeu que és molt econòmic, són 50 eurets i els que estiguin en fase doctoral és la meitat de preu, i entenc que pot ser positiu. De fet, estem amb 100 llargs, és a dir, que l'objectiu seria d'aquí un temps intentar arribar als 200 i, diguem-ne, dintre del que són les societats, les 28 societats de l'IEC, estem en zona alta. Vull dir que és un sector de la comunicació, com es veurà avui, amb gran vivacitat, gran dinamisme i fonamental per entendre la societat de la banda ampla, la societat del coneixement, i ara el nostre company Arthur ho explicarà des del seu punt de vista. I ara doncs, ja cedeixo el pas a Arthur Grimonpont, la sessió inaugural, que és responsable de l'Oficina d'Intel·ligència Artificial i Qüestions Globals de Reporters Sense Fronteres i autor de l'assaig Algocratie de l'any 2022, que el teniu aquí fora, de l'editorial. Aquí fora ha portat alguns exemplars del llibre per qui el vulgui fullejar o el vulgui algun. Merci beaucoup, moltes gràcies per acceptar la invitació. Cal agrair també públicament la tasca febril de Jordi Fortuny per aconseguir aquests contactes internacionals. I bé, escoltarem amb molta atenció, Arthur. Aleshores, podeu preguntar, qui no domini el francès pot preguntar en anglès o en català, piano, a poc, potser, i si no, doncs ja amb confiança ens dirà si hi ha alguna qüestió que no l'entén, però podeu utilitzar o català o castellà o anglès.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Oui. Bonjour, je suis ravi et honoré d'être invité ici ce matin. Je voudrais savoir qui parmi vous peut comprendre le français. Qui parle français? Un poquito. Et qui parle anglais? Would you prefer me to tell the keynote in English or in French? So, French, raise your hand, and then English, raise your hand. Who would like me to talk in French? Oh, cuatro. Who would prefer me to talk in English? Okay. It's not good for me because but I try to do it in English. So I talk slowly and I hope you can understand what I say. I'm responsible for the AI desk at Reporters Without Borders. I'm actually an advisor on AI at Reporters Without Borders now. And I'm head of the editorial at the French Center for AI Safety. And I'm going to talk to you about the threats that AI raises in the information sector this morning. So first I'm going to discuss with the problem and then with some kind of solutions we have. So if you ask 3,000 scientists on the main threats related to AI in the world, you can see that there are two main answers related to information. These are the first very two. This was asked to 3,000 scientists, and they say that the first threat related to AI is that it makes it easy to spread false information, like deepfakes, and that AI systems manipulate large-scale public opinion trends. This is obviously not by chance. It's because AI is already doing that at a large scale. So we recently assisted to crazy development of artificial intelligence, especially generative artificial intelligence. So this is what you got when you asked an AI generator to draw an author using Wi-Fi in an airplane. That was back in 2022. So it was like a random child drawing. We couldn't even see what it was doing. And recently it became like picture-like. And even more recently, so I'm not sure if it's going to work because my connection is not really good. Oh yeah, it seems to work. So this is, for instance, what VIII developed by Google DeepMind does. It's a nearly perfect video that's hard to distinguish from an actual video taken in the real world. And there are obviously many other examples of AI systems doing this. So this, for instance, was published by the Chinese company owning TikTok, which is called ByteDance. And with this application, you just have to load one picture, then you load the text, and the model is able to animate the picture with the audio of the text. So for instance, you just load a random picture of a stalactite.
The bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table, blowing shots, drinking fast, and now we talk slow. We come over and start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance.
So this video was not created by a human. It was just a random picture. Then you gave to the model the audio, and the model was able to animate and to synchronize, to lip synchronize perfectly the singer on these lyrics. So this is another example that I find interesting. This woman that you're going to see, she never did this conference.
And I know about this because I had the opportunity to stand on top of the Olympic podium and feel the weight of that gold medal around my neck. And I wouldn't have been there had it not been for the...
So this woman never pronounced those words. She never said it so. It was just a picture of her, and then you could animate the whole picture on any text. So you could do the same exactly for me. I could have been speaking to you on the screen, but it wouldn't have been me who was talking to you. So sometimes we call them deepfakes, but it's not very specific and accurate to say so. There are many, many different kinds of synthetic media. And this only reflects the general trends of AI performing in every single domain better and better year after year. So this is a selection of some benchmarks, so some kind of model assessments. And you can see that the progress was first quite slow. Well, it's already very fast, but for instance, the reading handwriting capabilities of AI progressed year after year slowly. And now, for instance, in 2024, another benchmark that tried to evaluate the level of generative AI on PhD level science questions through a test that is called GPQA. The AI progressed extremely rapidly on this task. It came from 0 to a human level in only a few months. So, in parallel with the progress of generative AI, there is also a widespread proliferation of AI content. We estimate that in only 1.5 years, humanity progressed as many synthetic content that it took photographies during 150 years. So we took, you can guess, billions of photographies during 150 years, and then in only 1.5 years, we produced as much synthetic media. So we assist to a widespread proliferation of synthetic media on the internet, but it's hard to evaluate how much is this synthetic content prevalent because we don't have access to data, and it's harder and harder to detect those this content. So, for instance, Google Picture is already flooded with false media, false content, but sometimes you just can't know. For instance, that one, would that be created by AI or not? You can tell, and it's probably going to stay like that because from now on, it's impossible to tell apart synthetic and authentic media. People think that they are able to differentiate, but actually they can't, and this is true since 2023. But because the fact that this media is very much widespread does not say that it has much impact in the real world. So how to evaluate the impact of deepfakes? This is a study conducted by the Italian Institute for International Political Studies, and it estimates the impacts of deepfakes on real national elections, and it says that yes, it did have impact on at least 20 national elections during the year 2024, sometimes maybe impacting the results of the election. Sorry, other direction. We also assist to proliferation of the synthetic text. So this is not only with images, but also with documents and text. So these are estimates that I was able to gather myself using many different sources. So we are able to set a low limit, a low estimate of the text synthetic in every kind of content. So for instance, it's estimated that 5% of all Wikipedia articles are written by AI, but it's only a low guess. That could be much higher. But we are able to confidently say that it at least so. Then we can say that maybe 7% of all news articles are written by AI, 10% of news bulletins from Substack. So maybe you know Substack, it's a huge newsletter platform with the most popular newsletter reaching something like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. so much higher than me or the Societat de Catalans. And these later, 10% of them are written by AI, 14% of press releases of UN, the United Nations, 44% of the corporate communications. This is not very surprising, I'd say, but also 47 articles on Medium, the huge media platform, and even 54% of publications on LinkedIn. This is maybe not that surprising as well, but still it's not limited to content that no one accesses and read. It's also true for content that is read at a wide scale. And maybe even more surprisingly, this also concerns science papers. So again, by trying to find some regularities in the text of science papers, scientists were able to estimate that, for instance, in the Nature portfolio, in 2024, at least 6% of all text was generated by AI. So this is obviously a bit concerning, but at the same time we could say that, okay, maybe it's generated by AI, but there is still a human to review it, to edit it afterwards. Maybe it's only some kind of translation that the AI made. So we can't really tell, but what we can tell is that we see a widespread proliferation on synthetic text and media, audio, video, picture, and text. This is basically invading every kind of media outlet and every format on the internet. So this presents us with two kinds of problems. The first one being that large language models, the kind of models that generate the text I just talked to you about, they are not reliable at all. And they often they often make mistakes, and they do attribute those mistakes to traditional media sources, which obviously pose a reputational problem to those outlets. So, for instance, BBC showed that when you asked very basic questions to chatbots like ChatGPT, they made mistakes at least 50% of the time related to news and actuality. And they often attributed those mistakes to actual sources, which never said so. So they took a newspaper, they invented a link, a URL, pretending that they found the information in this URL, but it actually never did. And this is basically because of the way these systems are trained. They try to satisfy users, and users tend to be satisfied when they find information that is sourced. So if they see that a quote, a claim is sourced in a strong newspaper, they say, oh, this looks very interesting, this is well referenced, this is a strong quote. And so models tend to lie all the time and to invent actual sources for what they say, and it's very often false. This is another study where you take a very specific quote out of a newspaper, for instance, and you ask different models, so ChatGPT search. So all these models are connected to the internet. They are able to do some search on the internet. Perplexity, DeepSeek, Copilot, Grok, and more and more. And you ask these models, where does this quote come from? And you can see that more often than not, they just bullshit. They say wrong answers. This is the case in red, whereas the cases when it's right, it's in green. So this is a bit concerning because some of these chatbots concluded some partnerships with the media, and even then they are not able to find the real source of what they say. So yeah, there are two main problems because they are not reliable and they invent wrong sources, causing a reputational threat to media outlets. And it's also a big threat to the independence of media and their ability to investigate independently on these huge companies. Because as you know, many media groups concluded some partnerships with OpenAI and other big AI providers, such as Perplexity. This was released in France with le média Le Monde, for instance. It concluded a partnership with Perplexity. We just saw that Perplexity is not reliable at all, but still they did. And this raises obviously many questions, because these AI companies are on the verge to reshape the communication world, and they do not provide any guarantee of reliability. They don't pay for the content the price it's worth, and it lessens the chances that these media outlets are going to investigate independently on these companies, because obviously they won't criticize who is paying for their contents. This is not going to have a small impact, because ChatGPT already has 800 million users, and accessing information, it's actually its #1 usage. They pretend it's not the case, because obviously OpenAI is not able to assert confidently that ChatGPT is answering reliably news-related questions, because it's not the case, but still, people use it a lot to access news. So this was asked to people aged to a young audience, mainly, because older audience used to rely a bit less on these chatbots, but still, young audience use it very much to access news, and they just access bullshit with that. Another problem is not only that these systems make mistakes, it's that they can be used by malicious actors, actors that want to spread misinformation, which is not the case of OpenAI. OpenAI just wants to make money. But these systems can also be used by actors who authentically want to propagate propaganda and false information. So, for instance, this is a count of false media outlets that was found by the non-profit NewsGuard. So in 2025, they were able to found 1,200 totally false media outlets, and these media outlets are not relegated at the back end of the internet, where you could never find them. They are actually well ranked on Google. You are able to find very quickly that website. I was able to access myself this website just by chance. I was looking for some news on Europe, and I came across the Observatory on Europe, this website, and it's actually totally fake. There is no journalist working for it. It's totally written by AI, and it only propagates Russian propaganda. And another kind of malicious use that can be used of AI, maybe it's a bit more prospective, but in the same way you are able to imagine swarms of AI killer robots, you could imagine some kind of AI propaganda robots that operate on the internet. So these scientists, maybe you know a few of them. Gary Marcus is a famous critic of AI. Nick Bostrom, obviously, is very famous in the AI world. Audrey Cheng, the Prime Minister of Information in Taiwan. So they estimate that we are going to assist to an imminent development of malicious AI swarms. These systems can coordinate covertly, infiltrate communities, evade traditional detectors, and run continuous A/B tests with round-the-clock persistence. And this is obviously a threat to democracy, or at least for what is still existing in terms of democracy in the Western world. So just to conclude about the impact of generative AI, these AI content are able to convince people, and they also cause a widespread problem that is called the liar's dividend. There is a quote by Hannah Arendt that is infamous, maybe I'm sure you know it, which says the problem when everyone is lying to everyone is not that everyone is believing is trusting those lies. It's that everyone starts adopting everything, and with people that adopt everything, you can make whatever you want. And we are we are seeing this happening at wide scale because everyone is basically adopting everything, and they are right to adopt everything because everything could be at least false. We used to say that there was a kind of compromise in the past between personification of false content and dissemination of false content, because you are not able to disseminate widespread content if you want it to be very personified. But it's not the case anymore. You are able to send very personalized content to a widespread audience from now on, because you can rely on AI to do both the generative part and the dissemination part. So what's important to say is that this proliferation of AI content is not happening on a blank page. The information world was already structured by artificial intelligence, and this is actually the topic of my book, Algocratie, that you can find later on outside. The topic of this book is about the impact of artificial intelligence in spreading information worldwide. You know that today, the first way people access news is using social media. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and more and more. And these social media are all based exactly on the same logic of profits. They try to convert the world attention into ad revenues, advertising revenues. And to do so, they rely on recommendation systems, which is a very basic kind of artificial intelligence that try to find out of the ocean of content online which content is going to capture your attention for the minutes to come. And because of this, today, 5 billion people spend 2.5 hours a day on social media, accessing news and many other things. So social media are the very first way people access news worldwide. And this is also true even for journalistic content. For instance, if you take Google search and Facebook both together, this amounts to maybe 2/3 of the reach of traditional media, of online traditional media, like online newspapers. And this obviously places a huge responsibility in the hands of these social media platforms. So these platforms, as I say, are the first way people access news worldwide. And the huge problem with this is that these platforms, these social media, systematically amplify wrong, divisive, polarizing, outrageous content instead of peaceful content, interesting content, just because outrageous content tends to capture our attention more efficiently. So, for instance, we are now discussing very calmly here. You are able to focus on what I'm saying. But if someone were to scream outside this room, we would all give our attention to these people because that would attract our attention. And it would be the same on social media. We keep focusing on what is divisive, polarizing, outrageous. And maybe the most famous example of this is obviously X. So this is not obviously my feeling. It has been investigated by many papers, at least until there was some data accessible to researchers, which is not really the case anymore. So, for instance, this study was conducted on the 200 million users of Facebook in the US, and it exactly showed what I just said, that Facebook basically amplifies wrong content, disinformation, polarizing content, and this just advantages outrageously someone like Donald Trump. For instance, in 2016, when he first won the American election, everyone focused on the role of maybe Russia or on Cambridge Analytica, but we didn't investigate a lot the role of social media. And these social media gave a huge advantage to Trump communication. For instance, on YouTube, 80% of election-related content was favorable to Trump, and only 20% to Hillary Clinton. So these platforms are basically shaping world politics and shaping it in a way that give a huge advantage to liars, people who are outrageous. So these tend to be far-right political leaders. The same is true, maybe even worse on X. I don't give a lot of details here. What I'm saying here was true even before the leaders of the social media admitted themselves that they were influencing their algorithms. Because now they don't even think it's enough that their algorithms advantage some kind of ideologies. They do influence themselves the algorithms. So, for instance, this outrageous image is a tweet from Elon Musk, who admitted publicly that he was asking the Twitter algorithm to augment the visibility of his own tweet. And this is because he was not happy that his tweets had less visibility than the US president's at the time. And so he just asked Twitter engineers to amplify the visibility of his own tweets. So Mark Zuckerberg did not exactly the same, but he lessened the very basic moderation practice of Facebook a few months after. And another problem that it's harder to identify is not what kind of news propagate, but it's the kind of news that do not propagate because of this way we access news. So we can call them mute news in English, information muette, noticias mudas. And for instance, I told you that Facebook was one of the very first way people accessed journalistic information. And you can see here that between 2018 and 2024, the reach of traditional media on Facebook was divided by 4, just because of an arbitrary decision from Mark Zuckerberg. So this is a widespread censorship. If that would have happened in Russia or in China, everyone would have been screaming, this is censorship, this is not acceptable. But this happened in Europe and in the US just because of what Mark Zuckerberg decided. And this obviously had huge impact on media revenue and journalistic revenue worldwide. This is a statistic worldwide, so this is true worldwide. And the same happened on X. So they are basically censoring voluntarily the quality, the reliable sources of news. And this also has, again, an impact on the trust of citizens on media and traditional media. So, for instance, you can see the evolution of trust from Republicans in red and from Democrats in mass media from 1972 to 2024. And you can see that we cannot even call that a decline. It's a collapse of the trust of American citizens in mass media, especially among the Republicans. It came from 70% of trust in mass media to only 12%, which is to say basically nothing. They don't trust at all media. So there is not any way that US citizens can discuss and access the same facts today because they just don't believe the same sources. So I'm going to be much shorter on the solutions because I'm pretty sure that we share many ideas about that. But maybe that something that I find worth insisting on is that fact-checking is really not a good solution. And there are many reasons for this. I'll try to recall because I'm not able at all to read what I translated in Catalan here, so I have to recall what I said in French. But the first problem with fact-checking is that it's a very punctual solution to a structural problem, and this structural problem is obviously related to the forces that disseminate news worldwide, which is to say social media, algorithms, and more chatbots. Another problem of fact-checking is that it always happens too late when a news has already been identified and spread widely. Another problem is that it just sometimes contributes to the noise of information. So for instance, when I scroll LinkedIn, I don't use social media a lot, but I use LinkedIn just a bit to know what happens in my field. And many times I come across a fake news, and I find this a bit disturbing, and then I can see in the comments that it was made popular because of a fact checker who wanted to debunk that news. But in the end, I would have preferred not to access this fake news at all. I don't want to see the fake news and the debunk. I would just prefer not to see a false claim. So what I want to say is that we need to reverse the burden of the proof. So I'm not sure if the translation is right. Yeah, you can say it in Catalan as well. But this is the main solution that we have. So we do have ways to identify what kind of information is trustable or not. It's not obviously black or white, but we are able to assess the quality of news sources using many different factors. And this is, for instance, what the Journalism Trust Initiative developed by Reporters Without Borders does. This is an ISO standard, and every media outlet can try and take it, and you basically answer dozens of questions, and you assess not the quality of the news itself, but the quality of the process that you use to produce news information, to produce news content. And if you are able to tick these boxes, then you can get the JTI mark. And if you do get the JTI mark, the purpose of this initiative is to amplify the visibility of your content on social media platforms. JTI already has a partnership with Microsoft, although Microsoft does not do much about it until now. The goal is that social media, in the end, are mandated to amplify quality news sources and are not able anymore to just invisibilize false content. It's basically just okay, here it is. So you can have a look on the Reporters Without Borders website, the JTI. And this is part of other solutions that Reporters Without Borders is advocating for. So first we need to mandate platforms to amplify reliable sources of news. We also want them to identify synthetic content. As I said, it's going to be harder and harder to do so, but there are already some kind of stems, cryptographic stems that you can add on synthetic content, and that should be mandatory. We should obviously mandate them to give access to researchers, to give the data and access to researchers. And we do have similar recommendations on generative AI. These are basically the same. For instance, we should mandate these chatbots to rely on reliable sources of news to train their chatbots, but we should also mandate them to provide some kind of guarantees of the reliability and of the pluralism of their chatbots when they are used to access news, which is the case now, but ChatGPT just pretends that it's okay because we should not rely on what ChatGPT is saying. But still, ChatGPT is used by 800 million users worldwide, so we should mandate them to provide some guarantee of reliability and pluralism, and if they are not able to provide such guarantee, they should just turn down the answers of ChatGPT when answering news questions. And yeah, this is it mainly. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Yes, okay. Jordi?
Which one of these solutions you have proposed can come from regulation. Perdona, molt li pregunto que quina de les recomanacions que acaba de fer combatre la disseminació dels continguts maliciosos, quina d'aquestes recomanacions pot venir des del món de la regulació? Tu i jo, d'estar.
All of them can come from regulation. And I tend to think that regulation, law, is the only kind of solution that we have to make the huge companies bend. They have $1 trillion capital revenues, the equivalent of small states' GDP, and as we saw, they just act recklessly and try to amplify their profits and also the ideology of their leaders. So, like at the individual scale, we are not able to do anything, and this is a problem for me because we keep insisting a lot on individual scale solutions. And for instance, in France, we keep hearing about media literacy. I'm sure there exists some kind of media literacy here as well. And this is obviously necessary, but it's not a solution to this systemic problem. Because media literacy, you can see that every single major every single social media company has a program of media literacy. Google finances media literacy programs, TikTok does so as well, Instagram does so as well, Facebook does so, and they do so because this does not question their economic model. And their economic model is built on the propagation of misinformation and disinformation. And we should question the actual responsibility. And focusing only on media literacy would be a bit like asking every citizen to become a journalist, for instance. People are not able to investigate every fact they come across. This is not my goal. I think I have some kind of media literacy, but I myself am totally not able to investigate every single news I come across. And the professionals who do it, they are called journalists. They are fact checkers. They are professional fact checkers. We should just rely on them to do so, but we are not able to just find and pick every single piece of misinformation on the internet, because that would be like trying to empty the ocean of misinformation with a spoon. And the ocean of misinformation keeps being filled by rivers and rivers of algorithmic misinformation, and there are just some human fact checkers who take their spoon and try to find some bits of misinformation. This is not a systemic solution. So we need to make the rivers of information carry quality information, quality water, basically, instead of trying to fill out this ocean of misinformation. This is my main advice.
Okay. More questions? We have here a lot of researchers, and what about the use of artificial intelligence, for example, for feed theoretical frameworks, and which are the tools to control the content creation using these tools? We can discuss about it. What about this evolution, or which is your feeling about it?
So I'm not sure if I understood right. Do you mean which are the tools that we can use
or the control to avoid use, a very conflictive use of other sources or not right sources, and to create contents without the own
or data,
yeah,
or private data.
Okay.
There is not much that you can do about it because these companies keep using private data everywhere they can. And they ask afterwards if they are able to do so. For instance, Meta used the data of their 3 billion users, and they just did. And then they asked their users, is that okay if I use your data? But they already did. And Anthropic did the same on Reddit, for instance. And there is a prosecution from Reddit to Anthropic because Anthropic just used the whole data of Reddit without asking the Reddit users to do so. And it's the same for my book, for instance. It was used to train an AI, and I was not asked to do so. So it's a bit sad, but at the same time, I'd say that it's maybe even too late, because it's all the information contained in this data is already, how to say it, included in the parameters of those models. And some of these models are open source. They're already uploaded on the internet, and anyone can have them. So all the information was already stolen and can already be used by model providers. So this is a great injustice, obviously. But I would say that I would not give all my attention to this specific issue, because the battle is already lost, maybe. And well, at least we should continue and fight for this, but this cannot be the only battle we have.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
Hi, Arthur. Thanks for your presentation. I have 3 comments. The first one is about, you have described a situation in which there is like no opportunity for media to win inside of social media, to try to combat disinformation inside of this kind of field. It's really, really, really mostly impossible to win inside of this social media. So the question here is why media have to be in social media, describing the situation as you have described in just a few minutes. And also in terms of the solution you mentioned, it's like the GTI mark also is a very, very short possible to win in this or in this huge algorithm system that is dominated by these platforms that are trying also to minimize these kind of marks that are good or quality journalism. So don't you think that we need to really make a radical decision to go away from social media to try to manage this kind of healthy channels with a lot of information? Because we have now proved that this decision to go inside the social media without any reason conduct to society to a very difficult situation today in terms of public opinion, in terms of democracy, in terms of the rights from women, for example. Why we not, or why media have to be there nowadays with all the knowledge that we have? And the second one is why we also, after 30 years of media literacy, we still making social media literacy like yes, this is the solution. I think we need to think also in a critical way on media literacy, because, as you said or you present on the presentation, the credibility of media is now in zero, despite social media programs. So, you think that really this is the solution? Social media, like giving programs that is not going to the people thinking critically on media literacy programs. I think that we need really to think on a different solutions nowadays to try to fight this very, very big important system. And the last reflection is about if we need this or we create this division between social media and information and quality of information, we can separate the inclusion of children linked with information on social media, because this is like the really starting point to make this possible change in future generations. Thank you so much, because this data you present to us give us this opportunity to think on different issues. And I say that if Facebook and Twitter was an utopia 20 years ago, we need to think in another utopia to change this panorama. Thank you so much for your...
Thank you very much. So on your first question, why should media outlets stay on social media? it's basically because I think that today it's really, really hard to exist to anyone in the world if you're not on social media. This is not true, obviously, for big newspapers. Le Monde in France, El País in Spain, those maybe don't need to be on social media. But for every other kind of small media outlets, if they are not on social media, they basically don't exist at all. And this is because whether we want it or not, social media have become a kind of public space, a public a town square. This I know this is very false and trompeur. This is a very wrong way to say it, because this phrasing was invented by and made popular by Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. They wanted their platforms to be the town squares of the world, and their platforms basically have nothing to do with town squares, because this is a kind of town square where you would have to pay your rights to work by giving out your personal data, for instance. And this would be a town square that would be entirely shaped toward the economic goal of these platforms. But still, there are no other town square villages on the internet. So my main advice would be for media outlets, try to build their audience elsewhere than on social media, especially because these social media do not award them the reach that they could afford elsewhere. But another advice would be, if I were Ursula von der Leyen right now, I would advise to build a huge, actually public square online, a social media platform for European citizens. And I tried to estimate how much would that cost. That would not be much at all. If you compare to the huge investments that are planned by Europe in artificial intelligence, for instance, or in defense and armament, that would be basically nothing. Maybe 5 or 10 billion euros a year to build a kind of LinkedIn, but operating towards quality content. And that could be very useful, and because it would be supported by public officials, maybe a lot of people would actually be using them. Obviously, these platforms would still be competing with attention grabbing platforms, so that would be hard for them. But if we combine this approach with another regulatory approach, we would mandate, like the DSA, the Digital Services Act, already does for digital platforms, but in a stronger way, which gives a lot of obligations to other social media. I think that this would be the best solution. So we have to think, obviously, about the main characteristic of a public digital square, but that would probably be free and not financed by ad revenues. So public authorities would have to raise some kind of tax and finance this public space, as we do for true public space. And the other characteristic would be that the algorithmic recommendation would be decided publicly. You could make, for instance, people vote to say which kind of content should be amplified. And this is not, well, it's a complicated problem from a philosophical standpoint, but from a technical standpoint, it's not hard at all. It's more a political problem. But year after year, it becomes harder and harder to imagine this kind of solution, because Europe just wants to export SUVs and champagne in USA, and it's harder and harder to negotiate with our European leaders about these issues. Can you say your second question again, please? I'm not sure if I understood it right.
It's about the role of media literacy.
Yeah. media literacy is obviously important now because you can't have your children go to school without learning to them how they're going to use the internet, because they spend in OECD countries, children spend at least twice the time on screen that they spend at school. So basically at school, that would be absolutely necessary to tell them how to use the internet. But media literacy is a bit like if you had a child, there was this public space, but this public space was filled with dangerous stuff happening, and so you would just you would teach your child what not to do on the public space and how to be safe on a public space, on a public square that is actually structured toward violence and hate. So this is not really possible. We should obviously implement some laws to regulate this square and not try to adapt our children to this space. And I'm talking about children, but the same is true for me. There is no safe way to use, for instance, TikTok or X. These applications are bent towards hate, violence, disinformation. There is no way I can use these platforms with a kind of media literacy enlightenment.
More questions? I don't know if you have researched about the increasing use of broadband attending the artificial intelligence use. We have analyzed the use of streaming peer-to-peer as a main driver for telecom operators, and it was a worrying question for these operators. And from some months ago, with the eruption of artificial intelligence, they are observing an increasing use of broadband. What about it, and in which way it can affect journalism in live in situations or in a need of a lot of broadband in dark zones, in zones without availability of this broadband?
Yes, I think that it's not my specialty at all, but I know that in France, politics kept promoting 5G networks. On myself, I'm not able to tell what's good with 5G. I don't really need that. I would prefer that broadband would be widespread on the whole territory with smaller data capacities. And but the reason why we are promoting 5G networks is mainly to make people able to access 24/7 HD videos, and these videos are accessed mainly through social media like TikTok and Instagram, for instance. It's very plausible that more and more we use these bandwidths to not only to access social media platforms, but also to discuss with animated chatbots. Because for now on, so I say that there was nearly 1 billion users of ChatGPT worldwide. But for now, ChatGPT is only a chatbot. You have to write. You can also talk to it. But it's 100% sure that in the coming months, or maybe year, but I'd say months, there are going to be similar platforms with visuals, with actual synthetic appearances. ChatGPT is going to have an appearance, and you'll be able to talk to it like you would do with a friend. This is not a very fringe concern, because there are already some applications like characters.ai, which have 20 million users, and their users already spend 2 hours a day chatting with bots. They can call them, they can have video chats with them, and many people fall in love with their chatbots, exactly like in the movie Her. And this is not even a fringe concern, because, as I said, there are 20 million users of this platform, characters.ai, and at some point there was a huge investor, I cannot recall his name, who bought characters.ai, and it had very strong policies against adult content, this investor. So it forbid characters.ai to engage in adult conversations. And there was a huge protest with the 20 million users of characters.ai. They signed a petition online. You can find it at change.org. And this petition gathered 200,000 signatures. So that means that 200 people felt very sad because their chatbot was not able to engage in a sexual relationship online. So many people are going to basically engage in profound relationships, or at least what they find, they think is profound with chatbots. And the same way social media algorithms are designed to make us addict, these chatbots are going to rely on huge supercomputers only to make them very convincing at having, for instance, human sentiments, empathy, and caring about you, making you feel that they do care about you. So it's 100% sure that we are going to assist to many people falling in love with chatbots. Although that might seem ridiculous from our point now, it's already the case. It's already happened to several teenagers, to many teenagers and adults worldwide.
Thank you very much. Any question? Okay. Thank you very much. Very nice presentation, Arthur. And if you are in Barcelona in next months and years, we will come here, okay? And we will engage with the next presentation. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very
go
much.
ahead with the Congress. Thank you.